Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Jim Cornette is probably one of the most controversial figures in the wrestling community today. Some for good reason and some for bad. But today we're going to try and determine if Jim Cornette really is a saint or a sinner. To start things off, how did Jim Cornette get into the wrestling business? Well, he started off as a photographer, taking photographs of the matches in territories when he eventually got into the business and became a manager for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which eventually led to him being part of WCW and eventually WWF. Cornette then left WWF and pursued a role in OVW, to which he was bought out by the WWE, or somewhat forced out by John Laurinaitis. Cornette then took up a role in Ring of Honor, where he was head of creative, where he booked stars like Kevin Owens, formerly Kevin Steen, Sami Zayn, formerly El Generico, the Young Bucks, and many more. Eventually, Cornette left the wrestling business and started his own podcast. This is where people started to really notice and despise Jim Cornette. He would constantly be mocking today's wrestling, making up names for wrestlers. Back in 2016, he dubbed Sami Zayn his favourite Uber driver. However, today his opinion for Sami Zayn has changed drastically, and for Kevin Owens, but that can't be said for the Young Bucks. When AEW first started, Jim Cornette was willing to give them a chance. However, he didn't have high hopes for them whatsoever, considering who was involved, as he has a pure hatred for Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, who are the EVPs of AEW. Jim was even offered a job to work at AEW by Tony Khan, but he refused when he found out who Khan went into business with. Since then, Cornette's made a living just absolutely shitting on AEW every single day of every single week of every single year since AEW's creation. Now, people like me, we get a good laugh out of Jim Cornette when he mocks AEW, and for good reason. There's a lot of things I do not like personally about AEW, but that sort of changes when we get into the next part of this video. Pushing his politics on his podcast. Now, as I previously mentioned, I really don't like AEW at the minute. I think they are a bad product. You can agree or disagree with me in the comments, that is absolutely fine. But there's one thing I do not like about Jim Cornette's podcast, and that's his continuous bashing of right-wingers. Now, this video isn't to make fun of the left, the liberals. That's not what this video is for. This video is to simply point out the fact that Jim Cornette alienates most of his audience, because most of his audience are going to be right-wingers. Jim Cornette, even though he is a far-left liberal, he is always on the receiving end of the cancel culture mob, and they are always trying to find ways to get his podcast cancelled. For example, AEW wrestler Riho left Twitter one day and everyone blamed Jim Cornette because he calls her a Japanese schoolgirl, which, in his defense, she does look like a Japanese schoolgirl. She dresses like one. It's not because she's Japanese, she literally dresses like a schoolgirl. But that doesn't change Cornette's mind on his politics. In fact, I have a personal story to which annoyed me about Jim Cornette's show. I went to bed one night, scrolling through YouTube, and I saw an omnibus, Jim Cornette's funniest moments. So I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be great. I'm going to listen to Plumber Moxley, Twinkle Toes, all the simple Cornette stuff that's funny. But the first 30 minutes of that was science-denying Republicans and Donald Trump bashing. Now, I'm British, so really, these things shouldn't really matter to me, but when you bash right-wingers in one country, you're bashing them all. Now, I really do try to ignore his political speeches because he does keep them to a minimum, but when you're giving me 30 whole minutes of it when I'm thinking I'm going to listen to him bashing AEW, that's a bit much. So where can we put Jim Cornette on the scale of saint or sinner? Well, if you are a liberal who hates AEW, he's a pure saint. If you are a lover of AEW, whether you're left or right, he's a sinner. But in my position, when you are a right winger but hate AEW, he is in what I like to call opinion limbo. And opinion limbo is when you can't judge someone because you like a lot of the things they do, but you hate a lot of the things they do. You think he's a funny and great guy, but at the same time, you think he's a piece of shit. So the opinion of saint or sinner is very subjective, but for me, it's opinionative limbo. And Jim Cornette, if he cut out all the right-winger bashing, I would happily put him as a saint. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe if you're new. What's your opinion on Jim Cornette? Let me know in the comments below. And the goal, 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours to get me monetized in the Stage 1 YouTube Partnership Program. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.